Hello, I'm Soycat, and I think that I live in London. I have to clarify that I think because I'm not actually really very sure. I mean, sure, it says London on my letters, and I do live within the bounds of this thing called London, but as it turns out, it's quite controversial where you live, as I found out from this news story yesterday, where people continuously complained that the ULEZ, which is the London Low Emission Zone, where you have to pay a certain amount of money every day to drive, or have a vehicle that's newer than a certain thing, basically, the ultra low emission zone is expanding, which means that more people now have to pay every day to drive or drive a car that emits less, and this is quite a controversial thing for the people of Essex because they are having this London low emission zone imposed on them, in their opinion. But as you can see from this little quote right here, I love this line from the BBC, how can one man dictate to Essex what to do when we aren't even in London, ? Dagenham has been a part of Greater London since 1965, but some people still regard it as being in Essex. This is Dagenham over here, as you can see, it is within the London zone, very loosely speaking, and it's a very intriguing fact of there are people who have lived here and 60 years later, after voting for the mayor for all those times and voting for London councillors, etc, 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 they still believe themselves to be part of Essex, the county, and not a part of London, the city which they are literally connected to, as you can see. This is a weird situation, but it is one that makes you realise that the cultural identity that we have towards our nearest settlement is not always the same as the one that we actually administratively are a part of. And yeah, although Dagenham is a weird example, if you actually look up, are the people of Dagenham in the City of London? The answer is no. If you go to this, and if, in fact, where do I live? I think I live in London, right? But I don't actually, because according to this, the list of cities in the United Kingdom, there are only 76 cities in the UK, and there are 55 of those in England. And obviously the biggest city by population is going to be London, so we'll just sort by population and we'll see that, oh, actually, the biggest city by population is Birmingham, followed by Leeds, followed by Glasgow. But where is London? London has 8 million people. Where is that? And you actually have to sort cities by population from low to high. You have to see St. David's, a city of 1,800 people. St. Asaph. You have to go for all of these things, and then you find the City of London. Funnily enough, these cities have been cities since the 90s or 2012. The City of London has been a city for time immemorial, which means time that extends beyond the reach of memory or record. As far as anyone is concerned, the City of London has just always existed, which is hilarious to say that that's how long it's been there. But the City of London is in fact a city, but it has a population of 7,375. Fun fact, I actually did try to live in the City of London. I looked into all sorts of options for living there, but apartments cost like $1 million plus. It's really beneficial to live in the City of London, but I don't live in the City of London. I live somewhere around the City of London in this big zone over here. In this big zone over here. And so, as a result, do I really live in London? London is not my city. London is my my county. It is the next level up, the closest thing the UK has to states, I guess you could say. And so, as a result of that, it's like, well, do I live in London? Yeah, but a different London than you might assume. I don't, there's a mayor here, but he's not like a city mayor. He's a county mayor. And there's lots of weird examples of things like this. But yeah, this is an interesting situation because it occurs elsewhere in the UK. Obviously, when Birmingham expanded, the same thing happened, and the most interesting example is Manchester. Greater Manchester includes all sorts of places that would not consider themselves to be a part of Manchester. Bolton is a famous example. I have a friend from Bolton. It is a town over here. As you can see, it's some distance from Manchester. It is a solid 9.98 miles. I thought it was further. But people in Bolton live 10 miles from Manchester. They have their own high street. They have their own Weatherspoons and the definitely maybe bar. What does that even mean? But they have their own set of stuff over here, and so Bolton considers themselves still to be a part of Lancashire, because Lancashire is this place over here. And as you can see, Lancashire used to expand all the way out to include Bolton, but some of the parts of Lancashire were taken and then included in the Greater Manchester area. But these people are like, but we're culturally still connected to them. We're Lancs, damn it. And there's an interesting thing in that, like, well, what really matters? Is it where people actually live on, does it matter that if you go to like someone's, the Spinning Mule Weatherspoons, it says Bolton has its own postcode, but it says it's in Bolton, but the actual county you'd have to list would be Greater Manchester. Is that what matters? The postal address, the one that they, presumably have to pay their council tax to and all these sorts of things? Or is what matters way more the fact that they believe they're part of somewhere else? Sure, I might live just outside the City of London. Wait, where do I live? I live just over here. Oh, Farringdon is just outside. So I live right near the station. It's very convenient. I love I love my place on this street. This is where I live, if you want to know. I live in this window over here. I live outside the city of London, but I feel like I'm inside of it. Or even, actually, I feel like I'm a part of Leeds. I really like Leeds as a city. I think it's good. Actually, no, I'm part of St. David's. They've existed for a long time. I'm a St. David's boy at heart, and everyone around me all believes they're in St. David's. Is that what matters more? There's a fun question in that. But the fun thing about this isn't a UK problem. You might say, this is quirky UK dumb stuff, right? But allow me to show you some American and indeed Canadian cities, because Seattle is a classic example of this. I've visited Seattle a lot. Seattle's like the nerd hub of the world, but it's also where Microsoft exists, and I don't know if you know what I do in my other life, but I have interactions with Microsoft sometimes. Also, fun fact, Kirkland is here, and Kirkland, that's why it's called Kirkland Signature, because this is the Costco. Is it the Costco? Is it the original Costco? It might be, actually. Do you think it is? Do you think someone will review that? Okay, no, it's just, whatever. This is Kirkland. This is why it's called Kirkland Signature, because Kirkland is a city in King County, Washington. And interestingly enough, it is basically a part of, if we do directions from here to Seattle, it takes you 3 hours to walk, sure, but you can be there in 16 minutes. You can, I think anywhere else in the world, if you go 16 minutes from the center of a big city, you're still in that city, really, but not in Kirkland. In Kirkland, you're in Costco County. And then there's Bellevue over here, which is video game developer county. And then there's Redmond over here, which actually I think where Microsoft is, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is actually video game developer county. This is where Nintendo had their headquarters. There's a Microsoft campus here. There's a few other companies that make this their place. But yeah, there's this weird, interesting mishmash of cities in the Seattle area. Unlike London, which includes everything around London, which is connected directly inside of it, Seattle has this big north-south divide, but then it's immediately surrounded by all sorts of other places. It is the exact opposite scenario, and this honestly, a part of me says this is ridiculous. People always say oh, actually I live in Bellevue. It's just say you live in Seattle. People outside of Seattle, people outside of the United States or outside of Washington have no clue what a Bellevue is. Or, if you live in Clyde Hill, this is a real city. Look at the size of this thing. It has a toffee lookout. What? They have their own city hall and their own elementary school and fire station, and apparently they're all next to each other. But, even though there is this city over here, it's if you say you're from Clyde Hill, you're kind of being a bit of a pedantic dick, right? You live in Seattle, culturally speaking, and you might be able to say. And so, as a result, where do you really live? Do you live in Kirkland? Man, I just love those Costco products so much. Or do you live in the Seattle area, maybe you could say? Even people from Tacoma, all the way down here, will be yeah, I live just outside of Seattle. It's got a distinct kind of cultural thing, but the two cities are just about merged. So people who live just across the river by the way, this is something really interesting to me. The bridge from Seattle to Bellevue is this weird floating, or it's not a bridge, I guess. It's a highway, but I guess a highway bridge. It's a floating one. Usually when you see bridges, they're over the water, but this one they just built on the water, and I still don't know if that's is that a good thing they did here? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, because now I guess you can't use this whole bit of water here, which feels like a bad thing. Speaking of bad things, I think if you look at Vancouver, so again, we can say well, American cities are crazy like this, but even if you look at Vancouver is a huge city in British Columbia, but this is Vancouver. If you want to look at what's really Vancouver, you got to go onto this map. Okay, wait, it's this map. It's this map. It's this map. There we go. This is Vancouver. Wow. Look at this. This is Vancouver here. This little island plus this little thing. This is Burnaby. This is Surrey. Honestly, this is why I put the population map here. It's because this helps you actually understand, okay, there's North Vancouver, there's Burnaby, there's Surrey, there's Coquitlam, there's Maple Ridge, there's Langley the city and the township, which are confusingly different. There's White Rock over here, there's Delta, there's Richmond, but then also there's the Tuwaswasan First Nation over there, and then also part of the Vancouver area is not just part of a different city, because Richmond is a fully distinct city. It's not part of the British, it's not part of the Vancouver city that just says it's a city. It's very interesting in itself. But then if you look at this, Point Roberts is a city in the United States, but in reality, this is part of the Metro Vancouver area. There are not connections to mainland US over there. And more interestingly, because you basically have to cross the border to do everything, the only people who can live here are dual Canadian US citizens. I know in reality, if you're a US citizen, you there's nothing stopping you living there, but life gets very hard for you, and so this is the part of Canada that is a part of the United States. I'm sure that has all sorts of benefits for them. I mean, it's US $4.14 for a gallon of gas versus, let's find a gas station somewhere in Canada. It's got to be on this main road somewhere, right? This is where gas stations go, I think. In fact, I'll just find a gas station I've been on. I've been to. Just before you hit the border, they're like, do you want some Canadian gas before you go? Maybe you can't. Okay, you know what? Okay, wait, over here. This is beautiful, right? This is what you want in a video. So your cat frantically searches for a gas station. Gas station. See, I have to say that because we're in. There we go. There were so many of them that I just couldn't see. So it's $1.76, but that's per liter, and there's 4 point something liters per gallon. So this costs you like $7.50 for a gallon here, but it costs you $3 less if you just fill up in the United States, which conveniently is a place you can really easily access if you're a US Canadian dual citizen. There's all sorts of weird things that happen because this part of Vancouver is actually in a different country. But that happens in all sorts of other places. Like, again, this isn't an English-speaking world problem. If you go to Basel, this lovely city over here, part of Basel, in fact, their airport is in France. This is France over here, as you can see. And so their airport's in France. And so, indeed, some of the suburbs, like Basel is over here, and St. Louis is over here. Wow, look how interesting that is. But then also, as you can see, some of their suburbs are in Germany as well. And so there's all sorts of weird things of like, it's more expensive in Switzerland than in Germany, so you'd go there for certain things, and people from there can work in Switzerland. There is this fun, cross-border thing to that I really like. But the question that I've kind of been asking this whole video is like, is it a good thing that cities just expand and gobble up what are distinct areas? People living in Barking, people living in Dagenham, people living in Romford of all places. Like, when people live in these areas, they don't really interact with London all that often on a day-to-day basis. It is the economic engine that drives their civilization, but are they really from there? I mean, I used to, here's a good example. I was going to use the exact place I live, but I lived in a small town around a big town, and I would never identify as being from the small town, because why would you? There's this big one nearby that maybe people have actually heard of, here's an example. Like, I knew a girl from, I once knew a girl from Bletchley. It's, that sounds like the start of a limerick, doesn't it? So Bletchley is a path. No, I've got to do the limerick. There once was a girl from Bletchley, and her looks, wow, they were very fetchly. We went on a date, but we did not procreate, and I guess that's why in my videos I'm so Gretchly. Anyway, so I should just, why are these videos not in the form of limericks usually? I think I'm very good at this. But yeah, so she would always say she was from Bletchley, but it's like, you live in Milton Keynes. We'll meet in Milton Keynes. It's fine. Maybe that's why we didn't procreate after the second day. Anyway, with the long story short though, there is by the way, Milton Keynes, if you don't know, it has this is where I learned to ski. They have an indoor ski slope here. Do you want to see it? I hope they have I bet they have a thing in here. Okay, let's hope that's it. Okay, look at this. Okay, this is not what I was expecting to find in the slightest. Okay, look at this. Over here, maybe? Okay, Google Maps does not want to show me. Okay, you can do this, Google Maps. Okay, so if over here, in this corner, I remember I had to walk to it a bunch of times. Is it going to let me go there? Oh, okay, we got to go yellow. There's an indoor ski slope. And, yeah, a lot of, okay, we can follow it. Nope. Well, in there somewhere, look, it looks like that, but it's indoors. It's cool. Just imagine that that's correct, okay? But anyway, it's a really intriguing, concept to me. This like town surrounded by town surrounded by whatever. And as I look into it, there seems to be one really big advantage of cities being split up. So if you take if you take Los Angeles as an example, Los Angeles doesn't include all of Los Angeles. It's this weird mess. Again, if this isn't a West Coast thing, I've been using West Coast cities, but like, I don't know, Boston, Boston is where MIT is, but MIT is actually in Cambridge, as well as Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. So you actually got to go to Cambridge, which is distinct from Boston because it's its own city, I think you'll find. And there is a river between them, but they're basically the same thing. Like, look at the ludicrous shape of Boston and tell me that that's logical. But anyway, so Cambridge is a whole separate city. Look at this connection between these parts of Boston here. But you can see that, like, by being separate cities, they get to kind of compete with each other. The reason maybe that you could argue that the Seattle area is so successful is because, yeah, this city is set up great for large-scale wholesale businesses. This city is set up great for tech companies. They have all sorts of weird incentives because they are the biggest employer in town, so they set up their whole town around it. Whereas this is a great place to live. It's set up for, commuters to all these other places. Whereas this is just a big city in its own right. Like, everywhere gets to specialize and they get to kind of compete in a way. Competition is generally a good thing. But one of the ways that that doesn't seem to be true is cities. The cities that have managed to just gobble up their surroundings, New York is a great example. New York is this, right? New York is huge. It's called 5 boroughs, but each of those boroughs is actually a city and its own county that merged together to form the New York area. And by doing that, they managed to make, because they can afford, but they can have the subway system, which is the biggest and greatest transportation system in the United States, you could argue, that is, public, we could perhaps say. But they have this huge system, and they can do that because, yeah, the people from Queens will pay their fair share into it, and the people from Manhattan pay their fair share into it, and then they build the rail line between them. Getting cooperation between counties to work out, like, who benefits and who should be paying, and, like, wow, these people don't, I know in Florida, people in Miami, for example, they live in a city, they get that. But people in Miami Beach, they live on the beach. They don't want to be paying for any of these public transportation projects. Like, you could have a real nice rail line or a real nice something between them, but it's much, much harder to pull off because maybe they've got different incentives. Maybe the people who live over here in Miami Lakes, is this a city? It's an unincorporated town. I bet they don't want a metro link to... They live right next to the airport. That's cool. Oh, next to a airport. But, you can definitely say a airport, trust me. It's factually accurate. Anyway, so, it's really hard to get people to cooperate without having structures in place for that. And so when you have cities that are conglomerated together, London, for example, they can do this whole thing. Again, whether you think it's good or bad, the fact that they can do these big projects and just say, yeah, if you want to pollute the air with your pre-2005 car, pay £12.50 a day. Even if it's to visit your loved one's graves, you're polluting the air, pay money. Honestly, I don't even think of it of like you should pay money because you're polluting the air thing. Like, that's a valid point. It's like, you're damaging the roads more than £12 worth, right? Like, go pay for that money. If you want to pay for the air as well, if you want to pay for the public transport alternatives so you don't have to, would be a good idea. I say that because I don't drive, and it's really easy to ask other people to pay money, and that's the wonderful way the tax system works. But the fact that they can just implement this while also at the same time being like, yeah, we're opening this new rail route. It's going all the way through central London like this. It's expanding London at the same time, because now people who live in Brentwood or who live in Reading over here or Slough, all these people can now commute into the city, and there is now a brand new way for people from the city to go to these places. The world gets better connected when you can come together and make these things. And although it would be ideal to do this on a country or a county or a continent-wide level, the truth is it gets really, really messy. The more people you add into it, the harder it gets. And so there's this perfect level of a city, which is when you have enough people all with the same priorities, they should be in the same place together. And that seems to be the most effective way. But also I could be using causation equals correlation here. Like, even though New York has the best public transport system and the highest per capita incomes for a major city, like if you look at Manhattan, even though this is true, you could also say, no, it's because those cities are so successful that they can just steamroll all of the people who used to live somewhere else. Like, if you live all the way out here in Brooklyn, actually, I think Queens is probably a better example. If you live all the way out in here in Queens, you live on this beach in Edgemere. Oh, apparently you get the subway. I thought that'd be a clearly rural place that wouldn't get it. If you live all the way over here, in Cambria Heights, you probably didn't want to be a part of New York, but because you're in the New York area, you just get absorbed. Also, there's a place called St. Albans in New York. That's cool. I wonder if it's as good as St. Albans in St. Albans. Just to show you right here. St. Albans also has a train station. And funnily enough, these are people who live outside of London. This is one of those places. If I wanted to live outside of London but still be connected, this would be a place you pick. You get to live, 25 minutes from the center of London while still being outside of its boundaries. But like culturally speaking, they're really kind of a part of London. Whereas, to go the exact opposite way, people who live in Croydon, culturally speaking, they have their whole own city here. It's got 250,000 people. They have their own little tram system going on over here. Look how cute that is. And yet they are a part of London. And so that's a really interesting point. Or maybe none of this is interesting and I just rambled for 20 minutes. It's probably that one, but I hope you enjoy the video regardless, because I've got to go places and I don't think I have time to re-record it. So have a good day, unless your name is Dave, in which case, sorry mate, you're having a bad one today. You deserve it though, you deserve it. Hope it gets worse. Okay, thank you for watching. Give me money to buy kebabs, because I'm currently on a trip over to the United States. That's why Miami came up. I've been looking at it on a map so much. I'm like, man, I never assumed I'd go to Florida. But in January, it's fine, apparently. Maybe it's still too hot. I don't know. Am I allowed to just complain about the weather for another minute? I think I can. You know what I hate is there's nowhere on Earth that's actually perfect weather all year round. People like California and Florida because like, oh, it's so nice. It's humid and hot in Florida or Georgia. It's just hot all the time. It was 42 degrees last time I was in LA doing work. 44 maybe. It was too many. I really like Las Vegas, but it gets to the sorts of temperatures where everything burns and you have to stay inside. And it's like, why isn't there anywhere where it's actually perfect? People don't like London because, oh, it rains so much. It's like you get a little wet 100-something days a year, but then actually it does get a little too hot in the summers, a little too cold in the winters. Like, it goes like, I know, like, is there anyone on Earth that actually just has perfect weather, but also has like favorable something and is in a developed country? Have we found it? If we find it, let me know and I'll move there. That'd be nice. Is it in New Zealand? Does New Zealand have perfect weather? Tell me where has perfect weather and I'll just go live there, because I don't know. That's a good idea. I've got right now I'm in Vegas. I've got an apartment that I've got to work out what I'm doing with for 3 months. Because like to forfeit the lease or whatever it's called, to surrender the lease. What a weird term that is. Was going to cost me more than the months of rent that are left on it. So I've got a place that I'm still renting, despite not. I'm gonna go make the most of it, and I guess I'll go do that now. Anyway, second channel, don't care. Let me know where I should live. Goodbye.